The postmodern movement and philosophers, do you think, are they idiot dupes in this larger scheme?
To a degree. I mean, the way philosophy works is it's kind of a centuries-long, millennia-long conversation. And so, this generation of philosophers is critiquing, all the dudes before them. And so, because it's like a long conversation of critique of the critique of the critique of the critique of the critique, then each guy kind of will have his insight. So the postmodern philosophers are useful for me as an apologist or a thinker, precisely because I see them as taking modernism to a logical conclusion. And the postmodern philosophers are useful because they say, hey, all you modernists, all you utopian progressive people thought that we're going to get better and better and better. None of that actually happened. Things got shitty. They got worse. 2 world wars, things collapsed. And so they are able to say, guess what? The Enlightenment itself was another mythological narrative. Now, as an apologist, that's very useful to me. I'm able to say, hey, actually, I agree with that. So if I was debating a kind of old line Enlightenment, universal, progressive type mindset, I would use postmodern critiques. And I would say, and how are you not just doing the very thing that you critiqued religion for? You're just a new myth, a new mythos, a new grand narrative. And so I would use the postmodern critique, but that doesn't mean that I adopt postmodernism, right? Postmodernism itself as a philosophy is self-refuting. It's a dead-end philosophy. It ultimately ends up in absurdity, but it's like using systems as reductios. Okay, so we had a pagan on the other day, for example, last night, and I was arguing with this pagan guy, and he was like, I was asking him for an epistemic justification for his pagan metaphysic claims. And he got really mad because he was like, I don't have to give it. How dare you ask me those things? Blah, 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 blah. You're a wanka, he says. And I'm like, well, that's a fair question in debate, dude. I don't know why you don't think that's a fair question. And he's like, well, so you're asking me skeptic questions. You must be an atheist. I'm like, no, I'm not adopting a position because I'm asking their argumentation. It's called a reductio argument. So I'm saying that if I was adopting your position, it would reduce me to skeptic absurdity. And I think that's a good argument. It's a reduce the position to absurdity argument. Reductio. I guess he had never heard of this, didn't know what it was. He short-circuited, had a meltdown over this. But I'm saying the same thing with postmodernism. Like I can say, well, okay, so wait a minute. If modernism's presuppositions are true, then it should lead you to the postmodern conclusion, right? That's a reductio argument. It doesn't mean I'm a postmodernist. I'm saying that it should lead you there. And so if you adopt that, which again, philosophy is a conversation in history. It's people saying, hey, wait a minute, the guy before me was an idiot. We should go to this logical conclusion. Then the next guy says, hey, that guy was an idiot. Let's go to this logical conclusion. Right. And so that's the whole history of philosophy is idiots telling the previous idiots that they're idiots. So let's adopt more idiocy. So all I have to do is just pick out the different schools of philosophy. And if I know a person's system and I know the opposing philosophy system, I just can ask them, okay, well, how do you respond to these people's critique? So postmodernism is great actually for us to show the absurdity of some of the atheist progressive systems. However, postmodernism itself is a complete dead end. And unfortunately, yes, the modern world, and you could even argue through pop culture.
Yes.
Pop culture began to promote postmodern ideas. Abstract art is postmodern. It promotes more and more abstraction, more and more formlessness, more and more disunity, disharmony. And so in the philosophy, you get deconstructionism. So the linguistic philosophers who deconstructed language and text essentially made words and sentences and books meaningless. But they wrote books to tell you this.